Good morning, everyone. So when we chant after the talk, we do the Bodhisattva chant, that beings are numberless, I vow to save them. And I was thinking about this vow and the impact it has on us, how it works on us in a practical way. And so in the vow we say, beings are numberless, I vow to save them, which could be a bit like saying, troubles will keep happening every single day, I vow to meet them wholeheartedly, or I vow to meet them with good intention. So, people's troubles arise endlessly, difficulties for us arise endlessly, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. Bills have to be paid, things break, things get lost. And we vow to not get sick of that, to not get tired out by that. But instead to understand that because we have a body, and because we're in this world, these things happen. We're social animals, so these things happen. There will always be difficulties and challenges to meet every single day. And we're vowing to really not get tired out by that, to really be able to accept this is how it is, and I'm okay with that. Not only am I okay with that, but I am glad to be able to have a consciousness that can engage this way with the world and can in fact say and do things and think things that may relieve other people's distress as well as our own. But this is not really an easy thing to do. It's not a matter of something you can just say, oh, okay, this is a good idea, I'm going to do it. You know, it takes a lot of practice to reflect on what are the patterns in our minds that make us get tired out by the ordinary troubles of life, that result in people being frustrated by the troubles in life and annoyed with them and maybe angry about them and resentful about them, or become sort of feeling helpless about them, depressed about them, or sometimes anxious about them, fretful about them. So the question I was asking myself is, what is it in our practice that can help us actually meet these kind of endless challenges with a glad and open heart and not get tired out by them, or not get too tired out. You know, and so I was thinking about the Diamond Sutra. So I wanted to talk a little about that today. The Diamond Sutra offers us a way of viewing ourselves and viewing others that has the capacity to help us have a much more spacious relationship with things. So I shall read a little bit from this version of the Diamond Sutra by Thich Nhat Hanh, and he's given it the more full title of the sutra, which is The Diamond That Cuts Through Illusion. I'm going to read some samples, but just the sort of introduction, which he calls the welcome, which I think is very nice. Brothers and sisters, please read The Diamond That Cuts Through Illusion with a serene mind, a mind free from views. It's the basic sutra for the practice of meditation. Late at night, it's a pleasure to recite the Diamond Sutra alone in complete silence. The sutra is so deep and wonderful. It has its own language. The first Western scholars who obtained the text thought it was talking nonsense. Its language seems mysterious, but when you look deeply, you can understand. Please read this sutra. Try to understand the sutra from your own experiences and your own suffering. It is helpful to ask, do these teachings of the Buddha have anything to do with my daily life? Abstract ideas can be beautiful, but if they have nothing to do with our life, of what use are they? So please ask, do the words have anything to do with eating a meal, drinking tea, cutting wood, or carrying water? The sutra's full name is The Diamond That Cuts Through Illusion, Vajrachedika Prajna Paramita in Sanskrit. Vajrachedika means the diamond that cuts through afflictions, ignorance, delusion, or illusion. People generally call it the Diamond Sutra, emphasizing the word diamond, but in fact, the phrase cutting through is the most important. Prajna Paramita means perfection of wisdom, transcendent understanding, or understanding that brings us across the ocean of suffering to the other shore. Studying and practicing the sutra will help us cut through ignorance and wrong views and transcend them, transporting ourselves to the shore of liberation. So this is a lovely encouragement to say, study this sutra. And I'm glad there's lots of encouragements to study this sutra, because the first time I read it, I did find it quite odd. And I thought, this feels very strange and repetitive, and it keeps on praising itself. That felt kind of odd. But because the teachings say, oh, this is a great sutra, this is really worth reading. And, you know, one of our great ancestors, Hui Neng, the 6th ancestor in China, was awakened by hearing a monk reciting this sutra. So I persisted and read it again and read a couple of different translations, and now I really love this sutra. You know? And a lot of the Buddhist teachings are like this. They're not readily, immediately accessible and understandable. You know, we have to have faith that there's something here that's subtle and difficult to say in words, and so often unusual imagery is used to try and convey the meaning. And it says here that when Western scholars first saw it, they thought it was just talking strange kind of nonsense. But time has shown that it clearly isn't. So I want to read just a few sections and see how that applies to this vow that to save all beings or to meet all troubles wholeheartedly. And in the tradition it's that we will be reborn life after life after life until all beings are free from suffering. So one way to think about that on a practical level is each day I will wake up and meet whatever challenges there are in the day after day, without complaint, without wishing it to end, without hoping, oh my God, surely not another trouble, without thinking like that. Or if we think like that, we notice, oh, that's the road to hell to think like that. How can I just meet this moment and go, oh, okay, another thing to meet and try to respond to skillfully. So I'll read a few. And so in this text, the Buddha is talking to Subhuti, one of his 10 principal disciples. So the Buddha asks, he says, Subhuti, if there are as many Ganges rivers as the number of grains of sand in the Ganges, would you say the number of grains of sand in all those Ganges rivers is many? Subhuti answered, very many indeed, world-honoured one. If the number of Ganges rivers were huge, how many more so the number of grains of sand in all of those Ganges rivers? Subhuti, now I want to ask you this. If a daughter or son of good family were to fill the 3,000 cosmoses with all the many precious jewels as the number of grains of sand in all those Ganges rivers as an act of generosity, would that person bring much happiness by her virtuous act? Subhuti replied, very much, world-honoured one. The Buddha said to Subhuti, if a daughter or son of a good family knows how to accept, practice and explain this sutra to others, even if it is a gatha of 4 lines, the happiness that results from this virtuous act would be far greater. So one thing I found when I first was reading this sutra was this reference to very large numbers. So here we're taking the Ganges River, which is a massive long river. I think it starts up maybe in Tibet and flows all the way down through the Himalayas and all the way through India and out to the Indian Ocean. I haven't looked at a map recently, but that's how I'm imagining the Ganges River. So a really long river with an infinite number of grains, well, not an infinite number, but just so many grains of sand. I mean, just so much sand. And if each of those grains of sand were itself a Ganges River, would that be a large number of grains of sand? So this imagery, well, one thing I found when reading this is it just made me feel a deep respect for our early ancestors, that they could think in these very large numbers, because now with modern physics we are realizing how vast the number of things are. Now we're getting a sense that the universe just keeps on expanding, and the number of galaxies is vast, and a galaxy itself is vast. So I just feel a lot of respect that they were able to think this way back then. So we can think of all of these grains of sand as a little like the many beings, or a little bit like the many troubles, and the many successes and joys. So in this particular verse, the Buddha is asking Subhuti, if someone was as generous as all of those grains of sand, would that be great generosity? And of course Subhuti says, oh, very, very great. And then the Buddha says, but it's not actually as great as understanding this sutra. So I haven't quite got to describing some of the key teachings in the sutra, but here we've got here close to the beginning a praising of the teachings of the Diamond Sutra. So I'll read number 25. Subhuti, do not say that the Tathagata has the idea, I will bring living beings to the shore of liberation. Do not think that way, Subhuti. Why? In truth, there is not one single being for the Tathagata to bring to the other shore. If the Tathagata were to think there was, he would be caught in the idea of a person, a self, a living being, a lifespan. Subhuti, what the Tathagata calls a self essentially has no self in the way that ordinary persons think there is a self. Subhuti, the Tathagata does not regard anyone as an ordinary person. That is why he can call them ordinary persons. So there's quite a lot in this one. And here we're getting to one of the key aspects in the Diamond Sutra. So when the Buddha talks about liberating all beings, when we say in our sutra, beings are numberless, I vow to save them, or even troubles are many, I vow to work with them, the Buddha is saying in this sutra, but actually there's no troubles at all, and there are no beings to save. Why? Because there is no self, there is no person, there is no lifespan, there is no personality, there is no living being. So we can look at that closely, and we've often talked about in the Heart Sutra, it talks about form and emptiness and form. So when we say there is no being, there is no separate being from us. I am not helping someone over there. It might look like I'm helping someone over there, but actually we are just one unified consciousness, maybe you could say. We're all just in this together. They're not all these separate things. There appear to be all these separate things, but actually there are not all these separate things. And I only appear to exist as a separate entity. I'm made of everything other than myself. So this is here in the Diamond Sutra. You could say this is an emptiness sutra. But a nice point that I particularly, well, more than nice, a very profound point that's in this sutra is that because we know that, because, for example, I know that Neti doesn't exist as a separate entity, because I know that, then I can say, hi, my name's Neti. And I can say that without a whole lot of weight or baggage attached to it, because I know it's just a sign, it's just a symbol that we use. But I'm not really that thing, just like I'm not really a priest. Because I understand that there's really no such thing as a priest, I can say, yes, actually I'm a Buddhist priest, and not have a whole lot of weight attached to it, maybe ultimately have no weight attached to it at all. It's just the way we communicate compassionately with each other. Of course, you can't go around saying, hi, I'm Neti, but I'm not really Neti. Who are you? I know you're not really you, but anyway, what do you say you are? We can't do that every time we communicate, but we can in our mind understand that. So here in this piece that I read out, right near the end it says, the Tathagata calls a self essentially has no self in the way that ordinary people think there is a self. Subhuti, the Tathagata does not regard anyone as an ordinary person. That is why he calls them ordinary persons. And quite often people sometimes get initially a little offended when they read in the sutras ordinary people or common people or the unexamined life. It sounds like it's criticizing ordinary people, common people, and those with an unexamined life. But it's just a description, because when the Buddha says that, he feels like completely the same as them. He's not saying they are ordinary people, but we're not. We're monks, we're nuns. He's not meaning it like that at all. We use the language to communicate. So when he says, ordinary people have an idea of a separate self, that's not a criticism of ordinary people, because we are the ordinary people. But we can use the term because we understand it's just a word. So this comes up repeatedly in the sutra. I'll read just one more. This is the last one, number 32. Subhuti, if someone were to offer an immeasurable quantity of the 7 treasures to fill the worlds as infinite as space as an act of generosity, the happiness resulting from that virtuous act would not equal the happiness resulting from a son or daughter of a good family who gives rise to the awakened mind and reads, recites, accepts and puts into practice this sutra, and explains it to others, even if only a gatha of 4 lines. In what spirit is this explanation given? Without being caught up in signs, just according to things as they are, without agitation. Why is this? All composed things are like a dream, a phantom, a drop of dew, a flash of lightning. That is how to meditate on them. That is how to observe them. This last verse is often reflected on and studied by people. All composed things are like a dream, a phantom, a drop of dew, a flash of lightning. This is how to meditate on them. That is how to observe them. So I have found this very helpful when I have a trouble. When something happens, there's a difficulty. Rather than going, oh, here is me, and here's this difficulty. What am I going to do with this difficulty? We can cultivate a sense of like, this is interesting, this difficulty that is here. This is interesting. It gives me a stronger sense of myself, but I know that's an illusion. Can I just meet this thing moment by moment? It's evolving and changing second by second. Not get hooked on the trouble, whatever it is. Just respond appropriately to that trouble. Over and over and over. Yes, so this is what this sutra can offer us. It can help us be very spacious around difficulty. So I'll read one last thing from a koan from the Gateless Barrier, case 41. Bodhidharma pacifies the mind. Bodhidharma faced the wall. The second ancestor stood in the snow, cut off his arm and said, "Your disciple's mind has no peace as yet. I beg you, Master, please put it to rest." Bodhidharma said, "Bring me your mind and I will put it to rest." The second ancestor said, "I have searched for my mind, but I cannot find it." Bodhidharma said, "I have completely put it to rest for you." This is a very well-known koan. Bodhidharma was the ancestor from India who came to China, and Quaker, his disciple, the second ancestor, it says he stood in the snow and cut off his arm. And the story goes that he stood in the snow for a number of days with the snow building up because he so wanted to wake up and be freed from the bondage of his own mind. And it says that he cut off his arm. And we have that saying, I give an arm or a leg. There's a saying. So it's a representation of how sincerely he was practicing and how truly he wanted to be relieved of the restlessness that so many of us live with all our lives. So it's an encouragement for us not to cut off our arm, but to do zazen. We can just do zazen, that'll do. And he says, my mind is not at rest. Bodhidharma says, "Bring me your mind and I will put it to rest for you." And he searches for his mind and he can't find it. So this is here in the Diamond Sutra. We search and search for who am I? Who am I? And we can't find a separate self. And we can apply the same question, who are they? And we can't find out who they are. We don't know who anyone is. Nobody exists as a separate entity. It's very helpful when you're feeling annoyed with someone to remember that they don't exist in the way that they feel like they exist to us. And they are in a state of constant flux. So he says, "I've searched for my mind and I cannot find it." And Bodhidharma says, "I have completely put it to rest for you." So we can do that through our Zazen practice and through our our wish to be of benefit in the world. All right, I think that will do. I'll just remove this pin here. Would anyone like to ask a question or make a comment? Nick.
Hello from Caloundra. Neti, thank you so much. The talks are so relatable, and it's so easy to follow. That's all I really wanted to contribute, and really interesting. And thank you for going through the Diamond Sangha, and that sort of interpretation too, because sometimes I feel I'm going through the chant and really not 100% confident in what I'm saying. So it was really beneficial. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Jisan?
I have a question. How can I put it? Can you say something about picking and choosing and making decisions within the two truths? When's it appropriate to pick and choose?
Yeah. Yes, I think that's something that we work with all our life, doing that, yes. Well, when we say beings are numberless, I vow to save them, we are one of the beings, ourself, we're one of the beings. And so I think deciding whether to pick or choose something, say for example, will I do this thing that someone would like me to do, or will I cancel because I'm tired? That would be an example. There's no real right or wrong answer there. I think we just need to assess what might be better in the bigger picture. No one can know the answer. But in this moment, what feels better? It might feel better, I can extend myself. I can go do that thing because I know the other person would like it if I did. Or we might say, I'm just very tired. I really think I need to rest this afternoon and maybe just watch a movie. And so we cancel. We text someone and say, I'm so sorry, I can't come this afternoon. I think it's just like that. I think if we're always holding that we both exist in a conventional sense, and so does everybody else in a conventional sense, we function, we experience ourselves as existing separately, and we know that everybody else experience themselves as existing separately. And therefore we have needs and we suffer because of that. And so from the position of vow, we need, we're called to try and be helpful. But we also have to look after ourselves at the same time. So I just do that. I try to hold those two truths simultaneously, and then I just make decisions. And be humble in that we have no idea which decision was a better one. Who's to ever know? And there isn't anybody watching, judging. We're just going day by day, learning from our experience which way to tip. Does that address your question? Yes, Shogyo.
In the sutra itself, the reference towards the end to lightning and dewdrop, could you just expand on?
Yeah. Mark's just asking to expand on the verse at the end of the sutra. This is a lifetime of reflection, so it's not like I can give you an answer, but still we can say a few words. All composed things are like a dream. So composed things are all the phenomena, everything that we see, everything that we hear, everything that we think, all of those things are composed in that they only come into existence through the relationship on a practical level, you can say, of matter, and our sense perceptions that recognise them. So my sense perceptions recognise you as Shogyo, and at work people would call you Mark or Marco. That's a composition. That's constructed through various different phenomena construction. So all composed things are like a dream. They're not as they seem. This is over and over in the Buddhist teachings. Things are not as they seem. They're not as they appear. And we know this from science now. I mean, they're saying that our body's made of billions of microbes, and there's so much more going on than we can see. And different species perceive different sound frequencies and different colours and different waves, and just on a normal level we can see that all constructed things are like a dream. And then it goes on to say, like a dream, a phantom, a drop of dew, a flash of lightning. So the drop of dew, like a drop of dew, is there briefly, but then the sun comes up and it evaporates. And a flash of lightning is just there in the sky and then it's gone. You can't get that flash of lightning and put it in a bottle. You can't do that. So everything's like that. So if I think, on a practical level, if I think I know you, I am completely deluded. If I think I know myself, I'm completely deluded. Because I'm just a flash of lightning. I'm just a dewdrop. And so is everyone else. And you can see in the language that's used to justify war, for example, very concrete, harsh language is used to justify war. They are terrorists. They are whatevers. We use that language. They don't treat their women properly. Whatever language people like to use, these are ways of being the opposite of what it truly is. It's kind of the opposite. And we do that, we concretize, we reify things. And it's not a bad thing to do in certain circumstances. Like if we want to make a sandwich, we want to put we want to put a bit of cheese on the sandwich. We don't want to confuse that and put another plate on our sandwich or something. No. We need to be able to identify objects. But as practitioners, we're holding the whole time. This what energizes us and causes and gives us this capacity to be very spacious is we hold this sense of it. None of it is as it appears. And that's not a bad thing. It actually is very liberating, because then you're just moving through the world with this moral compass of wanting to be of benefit and relieve suffering. But we don't get hooked on things so much. They're all just like a little ball of dew that's going to be gone in a flash. Each life is just, life's arise and then people die. Why would I waste my time hating anyone? They're just here for a few very short amount of time. In the time frame of the planet Earth, each life's just a little whoop. Why would I waste my time being angry? Why would I waste my time hating someone? They're just a drop of dew, a flash of lightning, a phantom, a dream. And we can even feel like that about ourselves when we're worried, like, what am I going to do when I'm old? I don't have much money in the bank. Well, you're just a little ball of dew. Don't worry about it too much. Take practical steps, a bit going back to what Jusen said about picking and choosing. Maybe take some practical steps, but still, you're just a little teeny drop of dew. Don't get too fussed. No. Someone says, you're a horrible person. Yeah, you're just a little drop of dew. Don't get too fussed. But if they try and hit you, then maybe go, whoa, that's not okay. But then straight away you go back, they are just a drop of dew, they are just a flash of lightning, I'm just a flash of lightning. We are all just dream-like.
From one moment to the next, it's different.
That's right. Moment by moment, we are in a state of constant flux. And it doesn't mean that we don't try and relieve the suffering, because we don't experience ourselves as being in constant flux. We experience ourselves as being quite consistent. And that creates fear and distress. And sometimes that's appropriate, like not stepping into traffic. But it's only a little piece of the story, And the sutras are so much about the piece of the story that's not obvious. That's why the sutras are here, because it's easy to see the more obvious part, that we exist in some kind of continuity, but it's not so easy to see that we are in a state of constant flux and can't actually be defined or pinned down in any way. So the sutras so often are trying to help us see that, because the effect, and over these thousands of years, people, can say the effect it has on me is that I am more spacious and I'm more caring and less self-obsessed and self-concerned. I have more energy for others. I can give more to others of my time because I'm not so worried about myself. All right, that's probably enough. Oh, Jisan, did you want to say one more thing, or is that just a...
Oh, I was just going to just quickly say that it's wonderful having different translations of the four vows in, because there's beings are numberless, and at Upaya they say creations are numberless. I vow to free them. So it's kind of along the lines of what you're saying. It's just a different, same thing, different take. So thank you for that.
All right, let's finish with chanting this vow. Beings are numberless. I vow to save them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. Buddha's way is unsurpassable. I vow to become it.